It might sound callous, but I'm a little disappointed in the Hearthsiders.
They're in worse shape than any of us expected.
They've done so little to repair the wonders that surround them. How can a society once renowned for its genius become so far removed from their own innovations? It makes me question if they were ever as great as we all believe they were, or if it was just...
Some myth to keep Weavers going after the surge.
Exactly. Something for us to believe in, whether or not it was true.
The Hearthsiders are in shambles. But who wouldn't be after what they've been through? I still believe in the dream of the Enclave. If it takes us to restore it, I'm up for that challenge.
You're right. If it really was that at one time, it can become that again. I'm just not sure what to think anymore.
So, what were you speaking to the Eye about?
Nothing. I don't want to talk about it.
I didn't mean to pry. I just wanted to make sure you're okay.
You want to know if I'm okay?
Yes?
Then how come no one is at all concerned with the fact we can't leave? This isn't my life. Traveling with the Weaver Band was supposed to be temporary. For me, at least. There are things I should get back to in Taza. And it's increasingly clear no one has any idea when I will. If ever. So no. I'm not okay.
I'm so sorry. I had no idea you were feeling this way. You're right.
I am?
The truth is, we don't know how or when we're getting out of here. But if you want to leave, we should have made that more of a priority. Or at least made you feel more heard. So we'll work on it. Promise.
Really? What's the catch?
No catch. Apprentice or full-time weaver, what's important to you is important to all of us.
I don't know what to say. But thanks.
Brynn, I have to say, I'm a little concerned about you.
Me? Why's that?
I don't think you know what you're getting yourself into with the Enclave Council. You're not just helping them, you're diving headfirst into their political affairs.
Lane, if I can fight an Archon 10 times my size, I can handle a little bureaucracy.
That's exactly my point. I was raised in the midst of political schemes and intrigue. There's always something unsaid or underhanded at play beneath the surface. Just be careful. That's all.
One of the greatest tragedies of the Surge is the loss of stories. The Enclave might not be that old, but with so many dead to the Surgeborn, their memories most certainly died with them. I can understand that. Oh? My parents' generation tend to stay quiet around the fire. Whatever stories Khanhanders had were beaten out of us by public lashings and prison camps. And we haven't had time since independence to start telling new ones.
Ah, yes. Brynn of Carnhaven. I almost forgot.
Wait, like what Darm called me? You were listening?
I always am. Habit-born of a Udean upbringing, I suppose. But, yes. I suppose the similarities are there, aren't they? A population whittled down by catastrophe. Stories lost. Did you ever have the urge to press a little harder? To try and learn just one or two stories? Even if it was painful for the person telling them?
Honestly, in that case, I'm happy to let the past lie. If I didn't want to look forward, I wouldn't have left to join Aaron's Weaver Band. And I wouldn't have ended up here. So I'm here to live new stories, not to dwell on the past.
I understand the drive, but do you think perhaps you might have been running from the grief too? Not to make assumptions, but it can't have been easy growing up in a culture steeped in such loss.
There's joy in freedom. And even though that's what independence promised, I didn't feel like I had that at home.
I understand. The physical chains are gone, but the mental binds remain. Perhaps our presence can help the denizens of the Enclave avoid the same trap.
I hope so.
And then, Sev and I realized we might be able to repurpose the carapace for more than just loom gates.
Uh-huh.
Purely theoretical right now, but I'm contemplating tangle-resistant gear, or even a protective layer around the caravan.
Dom, I'm a little busy trying to look over these Tarmakine schematics again. Do you mind coming back later?
Oh, okay. You're right. We can discuss theoretical magic anytime. I'll leave you to your work.
Oh. Hey, Brynn.
Everything all right? Things between you and Dom seem off lately.
Yeah, a bit. I'm not sure he understands what my work on the Tarmakine smithing techniques means to me.
Have you told him how you're feeling?
It feels like he's so wrapped up in his own discoveries that he's not hearing me.
He is easily distracted, but maybe you should try again. If there's one thing I know about Dom, it's that he loves you. He must care about your feelings.
Then why isn't he asking about them? Sorry, this isn't on you. I'm just frustrated. I need to do more than just tell him what Tarmakine means to me.
How so?
I need to show him. By investigating Tarmakine practices, maybe I can make some headway on restoring these techniques. Then he'll understand.
Hey, I'm always down to investigate lost knowledge, especially in the name of love.
You'll help me?
Of course.
Amazing. I'll ask the Axel if she knows anything about Tarmakine smithing in the Enclave.
Great idea. I'll meet you at Cassidon's Hold. Making yourself at home?
Yes. I've always wanted my own ruined fountain. I don't want to presume, but being here is a nice break from all the politics.
And the eye is okay with that?
I convinced him I would be keeping an eye on you. Frankly, I think he's just glad to be rid of me. I ask the kind of questions that make him uncomfortable. You know, tough ones like, how? And why exactly?
Lucky for you, Aria loves when people ask those questions. Welcome to the camp, Eric. We're glad to have you, and your insight on the Hearthsiders.
You still call us that?
Yeah, but it's more bitter these days. Surge and all. Maybe together we can fix that.
Let's.
How are you settling in, Eric? Things going well?
Good. Yeah, they're fine.
Just good?
No, not really. Something's going on at the hold, and it's making the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. The Eye publicly scorched you for opening up Asylum, and yet I've heard him telling the Spindle that this could be a good thing. Meanwhile, the runners are stretched paper thin keeping supplies moving. Which, of course, leaves my people no time to deal with actual threats.
Sounds like you could use some help. What's the problem?
Really? Dancing winds, where to start? No, wait, I know. The Spitfires. A particularly aggressive group seems set on spreading through Denevron. In particular, they're building nests in some areas I was hoping to use as training grounds, but we had to pull out due to the risk.
Would the areas be safe if I took care of the nests?
Yes, though the nests are very durable. They will turn brittle if you get them cold enough.
Consider it done. Anything else?
Maybe an odd request. Could you ask Oria if I could power the scry while you're tackling them?
Why not ask her yourself?
I feel like I have a lot to learn from Oria and how she works with you. And it's strangely intimidating to admit that to her directly.
She is a force of nature. I get it. I'll ask.
Thanks again for offering to talk to Oria for me. It's genuinely exciting to learn from someone new for once. Our community's pretty insular.
That wasn't exactly the warmest welcome. I'm guessing the Enclave Council isn't your biggest fan right now.
I mean, we did let the Surgeborn loose. Even if they should have stopped us from doing it, like Arik said.
A part of it is still on us.
I am worried they won't warm up. But, in the meantime, all I can do is try to make amends.
Whatever the Council thinks of you, I'm glad you're trying to help them. I think they could really use it.
Yeah. They don't seem to be in great shape.
Nothing our daring point can't fix.
The Hearthsiders look more traumatized than a beast of burden after a hurricane.
What? Why would you say that?
I would think someone who grew up in the wake of war would recognize the signs. Disorganized and unable to triage their own problems. They're overwhelmed. Suspicious of us despite our clear good intentions, suggesting paranoia. And while their leader is in deep denial of the very real crisis the Enclave is in, the others accept it. They've been stewing in turmoil for so long, it's become their new normal. And it's probably more comfortable for them than the prospect of change.
You're right. They do remind me of some veterans back in Carnhaven.
Saw it 1,000 times over while working in Udea. Oria may not want to hear it, but these people are completely lost in their crisis.
What makes you say that?
Oria has a case of hero worship when it comes to the Enclave. She can be blinded by it sometimes.
Huh.
It's not to say great things didn't happen here. But at the end of the day, the Hearthsiders aren't gods. They're fallible. Just like us. Brynn, I'm glad you're here. I need to talk to you.
What's going on? You look pretty tired.
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just... about those 90 Drake scales. I know Oria said we don't need them, but she just doesn't understand. It's dangerous out here, you know? Especially now that these Surgeborn are loose. We need to be prepared for anything. It's just gnawing in the back of my head. Do you think you could do it?
You haven't told me why we need them. Or better yet, why we need 90.
We want the best gear and weapons, don't we?
So Sola asked for these?
Not exactly. They have other uses too.
Seriously, when's the last time you slept?
Kashar don't need as much sleep as Ashar or Casil.
But you need some sleep.
It's been a while, maybe 10 days, or a week. I'm fine.
I'm guessing Aurea doesn't know you want me to go drake hunting. Do you really think it's a good idea for us to go behind her back?
It looks bad, but she just doesn't see what I'm seeing.
To be honest, I'm not sure I see it either.
Please, just trust me.
Kaz, you need to tell me what's really going on here. I want to help, but the drake scales? The Weaver Band is okay. More than okay. We're in the best shape we've been in since we entered the Enclave, now that we've made contact with the Heartsiders. Besides, the caravan is looking pretty full. It's not making sense.
You think I'm insane?
No, of course not.
Era's breath. I shouldn't have brought this up. Ugh. But you just don't understand. Everyone could die if I don't... It would be my fault.
Whatever this is, please just tell me what's going on.
No. I shouldn't have burdened you. Sorry, just go.
But Kaz...
I can't talk about this anymore.
Casmin is not okay. And I don't think bringing her more stuff is the answer. I'd better talk to Aurea. Kaz, you know you can talk to us about what's going on, right?
Nothing's going on. I'm fine, I promise.
You don't seem fine, though.
It's just... No one seems to understand how important the Ashpeak Drake skills are, and... Bad things are going to happen if we don't... You know what? I just can't talk about this right now. I'm sorry.
Hey, Aurea. About Casmin.
I know. I'm worried too. So is the rest of the band. Let's talk at the archive, privately. I'll join you and Lane in a moment.
All right. Hi, Aurea. I am here on behalf of Arakim.
That's weirdly formal. Everything all right?
He finds you intimidating. Personally, I don't see it, but I thought I'd be extra polite for his sake.
He does. Good. What does he want?
He's wondering if he could power the scry while I run an errand for him. He's hoping you'll give him tips.
Happily. But feel free to tell him I was a bit scary, to keep him on his toes.
Hey. You all right?
Yes. There's something I should have told you, so I'll just come out and say it. I was born in the Enclave.
How is that possible?
Oh, luck or tragedy, depending on your perspective. Before I was born, my mother and father lived here happily for several years. But they decided it would be better if my mother raised me with my grandmother and great aunts for the first few months of my life. So she left with me when I was just a hatchling, with every intention to return.
But the surge happened.
The life I should have had was lost for good. Because of all this, I never knew my father. I don't even know his name.
Is it common for Oberon hatchlings to be raised apart from their fathers?
No, but it is common for extended family to be involved in the raising of children. As you know, I come from a long line of weavers, many of whom traveled in caravans their entire lives. It was apparently quite a shock when my mother fell for a Hearthsider.
So your parents were looking for a compromise when it came to raising you?
Exactly. And I wouldn't trade my childhood on the road. My great-aunts and my grandmother made me who I am, after all.
Still, you missed out on your father. It's natural to wonder about him.
I suppose.
Isn't it a little strange your mother never told you his name?
She was separated from him so suddenly. She had no chance to say goodbye. My mother's a strong woman, but whenever I asked about him as a child, she could only manage a few words before her face would crumble. She found it too painful to discuss, and I never wanted to pry.
But now?
I can't help but wish I knew who he was.
Does your family have something to do with your attachment to the Enclave?
Being here has meant a lot in some ways, and in others, it's very different from what I expected. Meeting the Hearthsiders was a lifelong dream. But the circumstances of our encounter? Not what I'd envisioned.
Knowing now that this is your birthplace, I can see why that would be disheartening.
This was meant to be my home, after all.
This is definitely a twist. I feel like you could have told me sooner.
I am sorry for that. You need to be able to trust me.
So why hide it?
Talking about difficult and private matters is not my strong suit. And frankly, I rarely see the point in dwelling on the past.
I guess you and your mother have that in common.
Ha. You might be right.
So, we're going to find out who your father was.
You would help me?
Of course. Maybe Lane would have some ideas on where to start.
Actually, I had an idea myself. The spindle mentioned a statue of my mother. It's clear the Enclave commemorated their champions. I can't shake this feeling my father is among them.
You think there's a statue of your father?
I know it sounds strange, but the handful of times that my mother spoke of him, she described him as this great hero. Since she was one herself, is it so crazy to think she might have meant that literally?
Maybe not. I can scope out the statues in Upper Denevron for a resemblance, if that's what you want.
Good. And thank you.
You won't find Oria's father running amid statues, you know. What do you mean?
You know what's most likely to get in the way of tracking down one's lineage? Family. A scholar wants to trace a family line to find connections between key historical figures? No problem. A living relative wants to find their great-grandfather using some oh-so-precious family heirloom? What a headache.
Why?
A scholar is objective. They have no emotional attachment to the family line, no sense of self wrapped up in the results of their study.
And you're saying Oria does?
I'm saying she needs to expand her search beyond Weaver heroes. She's not searching for family there, she's seeking identity. And without objectivity, her search will turn up nothing.
I mean, it's her father. Of course she's emotionally attached. How could anyone expect otherwise?
No one could, of course. All I'm saying is, don't be surprised if there is more to this than what Oria's letting on.
I'll keep that in mind.
Food for thought, at least.
It's safe to say Casmin hasn't been acting like herself. She's always been tightly wound, but this is something else.
Brynn, she seems more open with you than most. Can you describe in detail what's abnormal about her behavior?
She's begging me for more supplies, even though the caravan is chock full.
Not that we could tell, because she's covered it up.
More than that, she just seems distressed. She's always talking about worst-case scenarios, and lately it's like she's convinced we're all going to die.
I have heard rumors of abnormal behavior developing in Kashar that could be linked to this.
What kind of rumors?
In polytheistic beliefs that are pervasive in the southern part of the Maida, there is an affliction known as
Ira's plague. The sufferer is haunted by twisted visions of death and pain. The goddess of justice, Ira, won't allow the sufferer inner peace until they repent through scrupulosity.
Scrupulosity? What is that exactly?
Oh, my apologies. I forget most people don't follow UD in eschatological study. Scrupulosity can be best described as a series of repetitive acts that one is compelled to do. For example, if Casmin is plagued by relentless images of our band dying from exposure...
She might send our point out over and over again to retrieve supplies.
Yes, in order to dispel the horrific visions.
Are you seriously suggesting Casmin is... what? Possessed?
Of course not. I'm confident that this is merely a stigmatized phenomenon that could not be explained through facts or science. So the populace explained it through religious folly instead.
Any ideas what facts could explain it?
Not yet.
I didn't realize Casmin was spiritual. Is she really trying to hide these visions from us?
Though not devout herself, Casmin grew up with a strict Ashar mother.
You're right, she did.
It's possible Casmin's affliction was a point of shame or contention between them. Perhaps she fears rejection if she shares her experience with us.
Kashar. What does Ira's plague have to do with them?
While most see Kashar as a celebrated merging of the two cultures, some fringe sects disagree. They believe the wider lineage simply leads to more ancestral sin that must be atoned, and thus only Kashar can be afflicted.
Really? Where do you land?
The concept of impure lineage is clearly hogwash, but I suspect the affliction could somehow correlate to the Kashar's unique physiology.
All right. Casmin is suffering. We need to do something about it.
And preemptively? No exorcisms?
As I said, this is likely nothing more than a condition that has been stigmatized by religion. A scientific explanation must exist, and thankfully, we are in the heart of progressive thinking.
You think the Enclave could have done research on this?
Makes sense. Where should I start looking?
The steps in the upper city is where I'd start. Between the main building of the spire and the atrium used to stand a school for alchemists. From your explorations, the surge hit that area pretty hard, but some of the building may still be standing.
Great. What am I looking for?
Maybe the name of someone who suffered like Casmin, or a healer who treated the condition. If you find someone like that, you'll want to search the areas of the city where they spent time. Ira's plague is wildly misunderstood across the Maida. If we could find a treatment, it could help more than Casmin.
You're right. I'll start with the steps, then expand my search. Good news. Ori is absolutely willing to give you pointers on the scry. She joked I should play up her scary side, but honestly, she's an incredible mentor. You'll be fine.
I've coordinated lots of operations from Cassidon's hold, but I never had much formal training. More self-taught. A chance to learn from someone with decades of experience is an incredible opportunity. I'll be there with you then, when you get close to the nests. They're in the Bastion's yard and Envoy's Landing in Upper Denevron.
What's your history here? Have you been the Axel for a long time?
Why do you care?
You seem like someone who deliberately underplays her hand. I'd hate to play a game of Panjal against you.
All right. I'll take that as a compliment. I was elected to this seat 8 years ago. I've done a good enough job to be re-elected.
What made you decide to run for leadership?
My predecessor was incompetent and took bribes. The guild members tolerated it for a time, but eventually enough was enough. The Eye never seemed to have a problem with it, though.
Do you think he's taking bribes?
You really aren't afraid of asking dangerous questions, are you? I personally haven't seen any evidence of his corruption. He believes in his own judgment too much to accept a bribe. It's easier to bribe the lower-level guild members anyway.
Isn't that a bad thing?
The wheels of society must needs be greased. If they do any more than skim a little off the top, I'll come down hard on them. And that's why I've managed to keep my job. Well, part of why, anyway.
How's your working relationship with the Eye? Is he your superior?
He would like to think so. His seat casts the final vote when the council cannot make a decision.
But his seat has more power than that.
Khan Stanield wields power beyond the traditional bounds of the Eye's seat, yes. But he is our savior, so surely he must know better than any of us. Which is to say, he is technically the highest-ranked official in the Enclave. But he hasn't faced an election in decades. In contrast, I have, let's call it, popular support.
So, what does an Axel do all day?
It varies. Some of my predecessors have been very hands-on, as befits a representative of the physical trades. That's not my strong suit, though. So I end up with my beak buried in paperwork. Maintaining supply lines, as it turns out, is considered extremely helpful.
That all makes sense? Thanks for taking a moment to talk.
Brynn, you brought your talented smith. To what do I owe the pleasure?
I was wondering if you might have any information on Tarmakine's smithing practices within the Enclave.
I'm not well versed in Tarmakind myself, but I recall one smith who hoped to make the techniques more widespread prior to the surge. You could try searching the guild district in Heidenevron for a registry.
Sola is actually hoping to restore the lost art herself. Anything else I could look for that might help her?
The Smithing Guild also had an extensive library. You might find a tome on Tarmakind that could be useful while you're there.
Thank you so much.
I admire your ambition. What you're hoping to achieve is no small feat.
If anyone can do it, it's Sola.
I don't know about that.
I can believe it. Good luck in your endeavors.
Oria's father is unlikely to be a Casil woman. Besides, when it comes to nurturing parental figures, Ramanos's shrewd eye for politics isn't what comes to mind. Oria thinks her father could have a statue in the Enclave just like her mother. So,
looking for a male Oberon that fits our timeline.
Getting close now. Watch for the flames. They're extra dangerous when the air's this hot. You'll need to freeze the hives. They're spongy and resistant to damage unless you can make them brittle.
That's more like it. Work with the scry.
This appears to be a registry of smiths. It's dated prior to the retreat to Cassidon's Hold. There's one Tamakaite smith, Xavier Nebrail. Looks like he had a workshop. Tamakaite Smithing, a compendium on vented metalwork. Sola will love this. The Guild District. I should look for tomes on the Tamakaite smithing style, and a registry of guild members here.
As impressive as Auria's lineage may be, we're 200 years off the timeline for Arden to be her father. Not to mention the lack of feathers.
Resonance from one of these massive arcs.
dispel her nerves.
Only one way to find out. Oria, this must be the statue of your mother that the spindle mentioned.
One of the greatest enchantresses of her time.
That's a lot to live up to. This statue does depict an Oberon, but it's impossible to tell who it is.
Maybe there's another statue that isn't damaged.
I'll keep looking around the city. Not much of this building left, but looks like it's my lucky day. This tome's titled Disordered Thinking and Mental Anguish. Looks thick. An insert says, a herbalist in the market found success treating a variety of patients suffering from these types of afflictions. Better search the market next. ledger belonging to the herbalist that owned this stand. There are notes on all kinds of afflictions, both physical and mental, that were treated here. Looks like they asked one patient with symptoms similar to Casmin to keep a diary during treatment. I wonder if I could track it down. He lived in the lower city.
Isn't that the same Brynn statue you found in the atrium?
Maybe if I burn the vines, I'll be able to see who it is. Agretius, known for his acts of bravery following the Surge. Could this be your father, Aurea?
Perhaps. Arakin might know how to confirm.
A diary. The man it belonged to details all his anxieties and intrusive visions. I wonder if the chasm relates to him. It's hard to think about experiencing all this alone. He mentions that he also sought at the Hallow Pyre Rise. I should check the temple for more information. Xavier's workshop should be up ahead. Solid and sturdy. Not made for traveling like Solar's. Xavier's diary. From a quick skim, it doesn't look like he was a particularly happy man.
My mentor used to...
Another set of schematics. This is sure to put a smile on Solar's face.
The Iron Walk. Hilda told me all these amazing stories, but seeing it in person... wow.
Sorry, who?
Oh, my mentor. She visited the Enclave regularly before the Surge. I apprenticed under her for a few years.
What did she tell you?
The noise from the forges made sure you'd only have the smiths and their clients around. But on an average day, some serious coin would trade hands. The Enclave's smithing culture was such a draw, it started to cause tensions with the other nations. It didn't help that the Enclave would actively poach the best and brightest. They had deep purses.
I've heard stories of that. Some of the Carnhaven masters had moved and never returned after the veil went up.
The Surge was horrible for everyone, of course, but I reckon a few smithing guilds were happy to not have the competition anymore.
Making the best of it, I suppose?
And make the best of it they did. The discoveries we can glean from your findings are incredible, Brynn. This schematic is much more complicated than the previous one, though. And I'm starting to realize why Tarmakind is a lost art.
What do you mean?
Xavier used a traditional forge because he needed to reach much higher temperatures to work the signature Tarmakind vents. Unfortunately, my forge is built for transport. It's unable to sustain those higher temperatures.
Could we improve it?
Dom had that idea of a set of enchanted hammers. They, combined with the forge, might be enough heat.
He'll be glad to hear it.
Could you maybe get him to enchant them on my behalf?
Why? I'm sure he'd be thrilled to help you.
I know. We're just not on the same page right now. I'd rather be further in my investigation before I speak to him. Besides, he mentioned he'd need some cinder linen for the enchantment, and I was thinking you could scavenge some for us.
All right. This is a little strange, but I guess I can talk to him for you.
Thanks. When's the last... time anyone saw her sleep?
It's been weeks.
Is that normal for a kid?
Hey, Dom. Sola was wondering if you could enchant a set of hammers after all. She's finally ready to use them.
Of course, but why isn't she asking me to do it herself?
She's been a bit busy with the Tarmakind stuff she's working on.
Right. I'm happy to enchant the hammers. I'll need cinder linen to do it, though. Do you have any on you?
As a matter of fact, I do. Here.
Perfect. I've still got some of the byproduct from your drake harvest as well. I'll enchant them right away. Do you think I should be the one to bring them to Sola? Or would she prefer that you do it?
Why don't you bring them? This Tarmakind project is really important to her, and I think it would mean a lot if you helped out.
You're right. She's the love of my life, after all. I'm happy to help. But maybe you could join me? After all, you're the one she's been entrusting the details of her work to. Maybe she'd rather you be there.
I could come, if you really think that's best, but it kind of seems like the two of you should...
Great, it's settled. We'll both go.
Yeah. Okay.
This isn't working. The forge isn't hot enough.
I've stoked the forge before.
No, this work is somewhat more precise. It's not all bad news. I can forge a set of Tarmakind arms now. I'll give you the design. but the remaining pieces are too large to make without reaching the temperatures that Xavier was able to at his forge.
Solar, it's all right. We can figure this out. Maybe we need something stronger than cinder linen to augment the hammers.
No, enchanting isn't the solution. Sev and I need to head into Denevron to get Xavier's forge. It's built for this.
And it's exceptionally heavy. You and Sev are strong, but do you really think you'll be able to get it back here?
We have to try.
My love, I know this is important to you, but do you think Xavier's forge is a long-term solution? The caravan won't be able to carry it. You'll need to leave it behind when we start traveling again.
I don't want to keep traveling. I want to settle down. I want to stay in one place. I want a home.
But we're weavers. Our home is the open road. Traveling is what we do.
It doesn't have to be.
Staying in one place, it's not the life we decided on for ourselves.
It's not the life I thought I could have. But here, in the Enclave, it's possible. We could be weavers and stay. You could enchant. I could teach smithing. I could unravel the Tarmakind techniques and pass them on to a new generation.
You've clearly spent a great deal of time thinking this through. Without me. It's not what I planned for myself, though. Or even a life I want, for that matter.
But we're married. If we don't want the same life, where does that leave us?
I don't know.
Maybe I should give you two some privacy to talk this out.
It's fine, Brynn. Clearly, Sola would rather speak to you about her hopes and dreams than me. Maybe it's best if we take some time apart. I'll go.
Fine.
Sola, are you...
I don't even know what just happened. I can't believe he just left.
He was caught off guard. It will be okay, I promise.
I don't know anymore.
How you doing, Sola? That discussion with Dom was a little rough.
I'm frustrated and hurt. I feel like I don't ask for much, and when I finally do, he acts mystified.
He absolutely could have handled that better. But I think he was genuinely caught off guard.
How is that possible? I feel like I've been trying to tell him for ages. Or hint at it, at least.
Maybe that was the first time he really understood, though.
Maybe. I just need some time. And space.
I don't know if space is the best.
I can't have that conversation again right now. Especially if you won't consider... Never mind.
Arik, about those statues in Upper Denevron.
You mean the Friends of the Eye?
No, I was talking about the champions.
Ha! Some of them, maybe. But you could be the most heroic weaver in the world, and unless you're cozying up to leadership, there's no statue being built in your honor.
Huh.
Anyway, what do you want with them?
Well, we're wondering if there could be a familial connection between someone in our band and one of the figures represented on the statues.
You could dive through the archives we've preserved in Casten's Hold on all our heroes. That's the slow, boring way.
Don't let Lane hear you say that.
Or you can compare mantles to see if their patterns are a match.
You can tell two people are related through their mantles?
The spindle could tell you more about the science behind it. But from what I understand, there are similarities across bloodlines in how a weaver's cloth pulls magic from the air. A pattern tracer allows us to analyze those similarities between two weavers' patterns. I'll give you a design for it. Once it's built, take it to the Axle and she'll trace the mantles for you. We've preserved mantles belonging to all our heroes in Casterton's Hold.
Thanks, Eric. Aurea will be pleased.
Aurea? For what it's worth, she's twice the weaver any of those statues might claim to be.
Now that we have a pattern tracer, it's time to head to Casterton's Hold.
Arakim mentioned you wanted to compare a mantle with Matteo Agretius?
We'd like to see if he might be my father.
All right. I've set his mantle aside for you. I'll need yours too, and the pattern tracer to perform the test.
You all right?
A little nervous.
I have to say, your mantle is spectacular. Matteo's easily pales in comparison.
Oh, thank you. And, is he my father?
No, I'm sorry. It's not a match.
Oh, I see.
Hey, we'll keep looking. Maybe now it's time to talk to Lane?
You're right. We should consult with them. I just thought... Silly. I'll see you back at camp.
Arakim, we will be having a discussion to clarify the meaning of no contact. Contact protocol. Of course.
A tome on religious afflictions. I wonder if it might document something similar to Era's plague. If Casmin really believes she's been cursed or afflicted, no wonder she's trying to keep it to herself.
Ah, Brynn. Hello. Yes, hello. That's right. That's the correct thing to say, isn't it? Is it?
Breathe, Dom.
Yes. Yes, of course. I just am not feeling myself.
Solar?
Yes. Yes, flames, yes. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there.
I think maybe you two have some things to talk through. After a little time to cool off.
I had no idea she wants to stop traveling.
We all have to slow down sometime. We can't be on the road our whole life.
Well, yes, she had, I suppose, brought it up once or twice, but I assumed she meant later. Like our dotage.
At least it's out there now. Take a bit. Think about what she said. What she might want, and what you want. There's a way to make it work.
I shall. Yes, because I would very much like it to, as you say, work.
Exactly as I theorized. Era's plague is little more than a stigmatized condition with a perfectly rational explanation.
Which is?
A perfect storm of family traits and lifestyle choices, exaggerated by circumstance. Diet, athletics, and sleep all factor in.
Casmin hasn't been sleeping much.
Might be worth presenting this research to her to see if the rest resonates.
Good idea.
Oria and I will join you when you're ready.
Casmin, we need to talk.
Could it wait? I'm in the middle of touch counting the armory.
No, it can't.
We've been worried about you.
I'm fine. Seriously, don't worry about me.
No one has seen you sleep in days. You're clearly hiding 2 bands worth of supplies behind the caravan shutters. And half the time you're talking a league a minute about catastrophes that are never going to happen. We can't let you keep going like this.
No. Maybe I've been a little off lately, but I'm fine, seriously. I'm just trying to keep our Weaver Band prepared in case... I just want us all to be safe.
We are safe. Kaz, I've been doing research on a condition you might know as Ira's Plague.
I'm not possessed.
We know. The Enclave studies on Ira's Plague concluded that it's not a religious affliction, but a disorder of the mind. The sufferer experiences a cycle of relentless, disturbing thoughts and all manner of compulsions to fix them, including hoarding. Though it may be passed on through families, this condition is often exacerbated by a lack of sleep.
Brynn found a diary belonging to a Cassil man in Denevron who suffered from this. I think you should read it. He describes the intrusive visions that began after the birth of his son. Horrible fears he would drop his baby that he was so ashamed of, he couldn't share them with anyone.
That's awful.
It reached a point where he couldn't hold his own child, until he sought help.
So, you're saying... if I have Ira's Plague, there's a cure?
We found evidence of a treatment, yes. We'd need to talk to someone at Cassidin's Hold to know more.
But we didn't want to speak to someone outside the Weaver Band on your behalf without talking to you first.
I don't know.
None of this is your fault. It's okay to get help. We all need it from time to time.
But no one else seems to need help. Everyone else is handling being here just fine, and I'm the only one having a breakdown.
Hey, it could be any one of us tomorrow. And I know for a fact that if this were happening to anyone else, you'd cut them some slack.
She's right. It's hard for all of us to see you suffering like this. We care about you, and we just want you to be okay.
Fine. You can talk to the Weavers in Cassidin's Hold. I can't promise. I'm still not sure about all of this.
We'll go one step at a time.
You sure you don't want to run away, screaming?
What? Why?
Nothing. Never mind.
Come on. Seriously, what are you talking about?
It's just... that's generally the reaction that sufferers of Ira's Plague get across the Maida Basin. After all, Ira only stalks the wicked for penance.
Are you religious yourself?
I don't really know anymore. My mother was deeply religious, so I was raised to believe in the Southern gods. I always accepted them as real, but lately, I've begun to question.
How so?
I mean, if what you've discovered is true, and the visions I have aren't penance from the goddess of justice, I've been hanging on to a lot of self-contempt for nothing.
That is a heavy burden to carry out of faith. Kaz, you do so much for other people. What could you possibly have to repent for?
I don't know. At all hours of the day, a voice is howling at me for never being good enough. Never hitting the mark. It's all I can hear. How am I supposed to ignore it?
Lane's research indicates that with treatment, you can though.
I think if you knew how awful I really am, and how much I deserve to be reminded of it, you wouldn't say that.
Kasmin, we know you, and we accept you as you are.
We'll see.
Have you ever told anyone else about these visions you're having?
Only one person. My mother.
I take it she wasn't very supportive?
I'll never forget how she looked at me. Like she was terrified. She told me to keep my impure visions to myself, and that if I behaved, eventually Ira would leave me alone.
How old were you?
5. I had just started school, and I was struggling with being away from my parents to attend classes. Images of them murdered by bandits while I was away hounded me during the 6 hours I spent outside the home. I swallowed my fears, though, hoping, as my mother told me, that If I was good and went to school, the visions would stop.
Even if Era actually was out for you, I still wouldn't run. Anyone who cares about you knows you're not a threat.
I wish I felt as sure of that as you do.
In time, I'll be able to say, I told you so.
Maybe.
I was really hoping we'd find my father among the statues, but it's time to expand the search. You were right, Lane.
I often am. Let's build a census of male Oberon in the Enclave within a limited time frame that makes sense for your birth. Knowing your father had to have been here when the veil went up narrows our search significantly.
Time to chase a paper trail. Between the two of us, we'll find your father.
Yes.
I know you were really hoping he was a Weaver hero. It's okay if you're feeling let down.
Ugh. No. Silly.
Stop saying that. It's not.
Our archival work might not be the most glamorous way to chase down a lost relative, but it is effective.
You're right.
It's my pick for book club. I can't decide between a love story and a student's wrong.